When we think about a virus or bacteria, it's easy to picture it as this indiscriminate threat, right? It just attacks anyone. But what if that's not the whole story? What if who we are, both biologically and socially, can completely change our risk during an epidemic? So let's just get right to it and ask the big question. Do infectious disease outbreaks really affect everyone in the same way? Well, according to global health experts, the answer is a huge, resounding no. And the reasons why are absolutely vital if we want to build a response that actually protects everyone. Because it turns out it's so much more than just the pathogen itself. There are these invisible forces, our social roles, our daily jobs, our cultural norms, that play a massive part in who gets exposed, who can get treatment, and, when it comes right down to it, who survives an outbreak. Okay, so to really unpack this, we need to look at the problem through two different but totally connected lenses. We've got the lens of sex and the lens of gender. They might sound similar, but in public health, they tell two very different, very important parts of the story. First up, let's talk about sex. Now, the World Health Organization defines this in purely biological terms. We're talking chromosomes, hormones, reproductive organs, all the physiological hardware. It's the literal blueprint that defines us as male or female. Now let's switch over to gender. This is a whole different ballgame. Gender is all about the roles, the behaviors, and the attributes that a society builds and says, this is appropriate for men and this is appropriate for women. This isn't biology, it's culture, it's expectations, it's the social software we run on. And seeing them side by side like this really makes it crystal clear, doesn't it? On one side, you've got sex, which is rooted in our body's physiology. And on the other, you've got gender, which is shaped by the society we live in. One is about our bodies, the other is about our lives. And in an outbreak, believe me, both of them matter a lot. So why are we drilling down on this? Because these differences, both the biological and the social ones, can directly affect your chances of even getting infected, the kind of healthcare you get if you do fall ill, and even how the illness plays out in the end. And this brings us to a huge, huge problem in public health. If we're not even bothering to look for these differences, how on earth can we account for them? The very first step to a smarter response is simply getting better information. I mean, just think about it. It's a pretty simple question for public health officials, right? If your data collection and your research just lumps everyone together into one generic group, how can you ever hope to design a plan that actually works for real people in the real world? It's impossible. According to WHO guidance, this is where better surveillance has to start. It means you've got to systematically collect and separate your data by sex. But you also have to find ways to understand gender roles and track critical details, like who's pregnant. This is how you start to see the hidden risks that you'd otherwise miss. And this same exact thinking makes our science smarter too. It means designing studies that don't just default to male subjects, for instance. It means we stop automatically excluding pregnant women who are so often left out. And it means we have to actively look for differences. This is what makes science more powerful and the results more fair. Okay, but collecting all that data, that's really just the first step. The next, and honestly probably the hardest part, is turning those insights into real action in our clinics, in our communities, and in our policies. On this point, the WHO guidance is absolutely clear. You can't just put essential services on hold during a crisis. This quote really hammers it home. Reproductive health care isn't some luxury. It's a fundamental need, and it has to be maintained safely and without stigma, no matter what. And let's be super clear, this isn't just a women's issue, not at all. Think about something like the Zika virus, which poses a huge risk to pregnancy. Well, then everyone needs to be part of the solution. Men and women both need clear info and access to tools to protect themselves and their families. It's a shared responsibility, plain and simple. What's so great about this is how it takes a really complicated social problem and breaks it down into a clear, actionable plan. Step 1, figure out the gender roles. Who are the primary caregivers? Who travels for work? Step 2, analyze how those roles change their risk. And finally, step 3, build your response plan around those realities. Of course, you can have the best science and the best policies in the world, but they're useless if the message doesn't actually get to people. And this is where smart, tailored communication is absolutely essential. This right here is the golden rule. A one-size-fits-all poster or a generic radio ad, it's pretty much guaranteed to miss a huge chunk of the population. To really work, our messages have to be sensitive to the different ways men and women and different social groups get and act on information. And here's why that's so crucial. Different people get their news from different places.
Social norms might mean one person makes all the healthcare decisions for a family. And specific groups, like pregnant women, need very specific, very clear, and very reassuring information. You have to meet people where they actually are.
So, what's the big takeaway here? The crucial point is that paying attention to sex and gender isn't just some ethical nice to have. It's not about being politically correct or an optional add on if you've got the time. It is a fundamental, non negotiable part of any public health response that hopes to be effective, efficient, and equitable. It's just about making the whole system work better for more people so we can save more lives. Frankly, it's just smarter science and better public health. And that leaves us with one last really critical question to think about. Knowing all this, knowing that our biology and our social worlds can make us vulnerable in such different ways, how do we make absolutely sure that the next time a crisis hits, our response is built from the ground up to protect everyone?